Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 3 stories for you from the Tales from the Front Desk subreddit. The Karma Stories podcast is published to all major podcasting platforms, and you can also read along on YouTube under our @Karma Stories podcast handle. If you have a story you'd like to submit to the podcast, you can do so by email at karmastoriespod@gmail.com. Alright, on to today's stories, let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Other Cantaloupe 4765. This has been the worst trade deal in the history of trade deals, maybe ever. I gave a homeless family a room, and in return, I got served a search warrant. Because why the hell wouldn't that happen on my shift? Shake my head. So on Monday, I got a call from Community Action, which, if you've never heard of it, is a reputable non-profit social services agency whose mission it is to assist low-income families with accommodations, food, and bills, among other things. The representative I spoke to started the call by saying that she had a homeless veteran with 6 children and a dog that needed a place to stay for a few nights. Oh boy, that tugs on all your heartstrings at the same time. I mean, a homeless veteran with 6 kids and a dog? Oh man. We talked for a while and I told her I'd see what I could do and then call her back since we don't have an existing contract or direct billing account for Community Action. I briefly spoke to my manager, who had to speak to her manager before getting back to me. They gave me the green light since it's a reputable organization. I called back the Community Action rep and told her I got the go-ahead. I set up a direct billing account, did all the info and routing stuff myself, negotiated pricing, did my own paperwork, and then sent the rep paperwork that she needed to fill out. She called after she received it via email, and I walked her through it. They won't cover incidentals or the pet fee, so I asked her to call the man to make sure he had a valid credit card and was aware he'd be covering all incidentals and the pet fee. She did, he agreed. We continued setting stuff up, going through the max authorizations and limits and dates and all that. I was on the phone with her for about 3 hours total getting stuff worked out. Homeless man comes in a couple hours later. To be honest, I was expecting someone who looked a little rough, but he wasn't like that at all. He looked like a really clean, straight-edge guy. He was newly homeless and couldn't get into a shelter. He had a ton of questions about payment, what Community Action would and would not cover, the rooms, amenities, stay dates, etc. He had a few reasonable requests. I took the time to answer all his questions, explain everything, and accommodate him as much as possible. I gave him anything he needed: toiletries, phone charger, extra soaps and towels for his family, stuff like that. He was well-mannered and polite. He wasn't exactly jumping for joy or overly friendly, but getting evicted with your whole family isn't exactly a walk in the park. So I never expected him to act joyful or anything like that. He checked in, got his ex-wife, kids, and dog, and went to their room. The kids were between 2 years old and 12 years old, and they were very quiet. In fact, this guy had 2 adjoining rooms, but housekeeping had no idea they had 6 kids until I told them. That's how quiet they were. Nothing new over the next couple days, and then on Friday, I come in for my shift at 3. Around 3:30, 2 state police officers come in and go upstairs. Kinda odd, but I didn't think much of it. Half hour later, another cop car arrives and another officer goes upstairs. The newest officer comes back down with the mother of the children, the ex-wife, and asks for a key. She was present during check-in and was listed on the room, though I don't think she was actually staying there. I gave her a key and they went back upstairs. Housekeeping comes down to report 2 officers standing outside the 2 rooms in the hall with one inside with the woman. Cops had asked housekeeping to open the door for them, but they declined and said they weren't allowed to open doors for people. They had to ask the front desk. Good for them for sticking to our safety policies. No change for an hour. At 4:30, another cop car shows up and 2 more officers come in. At this point, I call my manager to tell him the state police are on the property for an unknown situation. He comes in, asks the officers what's up. They say it's a matter that doesn't threaten the safety of guests or staff, which is a professional way of saying it's none of your business. So myself and the GM go into his office and watch them on camera, just standing outside the rooms. Another half hour, and the homeless guy comes back from work, holding the hand of his 2-year-old daughter, and asks for a key to his room because he forgot his that morning. He provides ID and I give him the key. Back in the office, we watch on camera as he goes up and sees the police clearly not expecting them. They have a heated conversation. He calls someone, and a few minutes later, his mom is there to take the little girl away. He talks for a few more minutes, and then he comes downstairs, flanked by 2 officers. The look he gave me as he went through the lobby was, he was pissed. They took him outside, cuffed him, put him in the car, and the one officer took him to the barracks across the road. The other officer went back upstairs. The ex-wife had left through a side door after speaking with the police. So 2 cops are outside the room still. Another cop car pulls up. They tell us they're collecting evidence from the room. Okay, they're in there for a while. Then they tell me that they're going to get a search warrant for the room, and until then, an officer would remain outside the door to ensure nobody went in. At that point, housekeeping and GM went home. It was just me. That cop guarded the door for 6 hours total before 2 more cars pulled up, and I was given a search warrant. I gave them keys to both of homeless guy's rooms, but they were only interested in the one. They went upstairs to check it out, and soon they were going back and forth through the lobby with latex gloves and equipment, fingerprinting kits, evidence bags, biological evidence collection kits, even more evidence bags, etc. They went back and forth for 2 hours before asking me to copy their handwritten inventory list of everything they took. I copied it, took a peek, and it was a long list of linens with suspicious bloodstains. I returned it to the officer. 20 minutes later, they were finished and came down to speak with me about what they took. They took everything from the bed in one room because it was all covered in blood. Pillows, top sheet, duvet, flat sheet, fitted sheets, and they even took the zip-up mattress cover, all covered in blood. They asked if I wanted that stuff returned in the future. Hard no. No thanks. You're welcome to destroy it after you're finished with it. They said someone, ex-wife, would be by to get the family's personal belongings and their dog, which had been locked in the other room this whole time. Shake my head. When nobody came by after an hour or so, we called the barracks. They were still interrogating the ex-wife and the homeless guy. They didn't finish their interrogation until 1:30 a.m. They got their crap and left the hotel. I personally spoke with the head housekeeper about the situation and asked her to handle the room. The room was fine. Obviously, the naked bed and some trash scattered around. There were a few bloody towels thrown around the room, but that's it. We still don't know what happened. I've been obsessively checking the news and criminal records of homeless guy. Nothing. One of my coworkers claims to have messaged an officer she was friends with and told me what the officer said homeless guy had been accused of, but she won't give names or sources, so I'm not going to spend time writing about what she said. I'll wait until we have solid information before giving an update. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called NoParty6167. It says, "What's effed about this situation is community action is going to get a reputation. We can all say it's not their fault, and it isn't, but anyone would think a little bit harder about entering into another agreement like that. We all want resources to assist people in need, and then someone has to come along and get into a situation like this, and it just leaves a bad taste in people offering to help's mouth. But also, glass half full, it was because of community action and this hotel that law enforcement were able to quickly find a person of interest in what seems to be a pretty serious investigation. Had the people in the story been on their own, who knows when law enforcement would have found this person of interest." Okay, this is really messed up because we hear about the homeless guy, we hear about the ex-wife, and we hear about one of the children. Where are the other 5 kids? Well, OP did comment down below when somebody asked that and said, "I can only assume that someone picked up the kids from school that day. The youngest was probably with him because she's not old enough for school yet." So for me, that statement just deepens the mystery here because we have no idea what happened. But homeless guy was taken out the front in cuffs and ex-wife was taken out a side door, so that kinda leads to a little bit of speculation. but at least we think the kids aren't involved. I have so many unanswered questions. I hope OP updates this one at some point. I'll be keeping an eye out for it. Now, I want to know what you all think, so if you're listening and watching on YouTube, comment down below and let me know what you think happened in that room. This story comes to us from Mr. Cuddles. That time, a recycling bin caught aflame. This story takes place last week around 1:30 a.m. I have been the night auditor at my hotel for 4 years now, but that night, I felt like a deer in the headlights, like a trainee on his first day. It was a slow night, hotel fully packed, no more reservations left. I had just closed the day and was reading some manga. It was that slow. A loud sound starts blaring everywhere in the building. My heart skips a beat. Just one. No effing way. The fire alarm went full force, and the second thing on my mind is, man, I don't remember the safety procedure. F. I open the fire safety book like a complete idiot and flip some pages. Then I stop. There was no time for that. It was now time to improvise. Step 1, called 911, explained the situation. Step 2, making my way to the hotel floors. Good, people are already getting out of their rooms. I tell everyone to leave outside calmly, rinse and repeat every floor. Step 3, accept that my ADHD brain decided to say, you should go back down and check where the fire is, only after telling 2 floors of people, out of 4, to get out. It was in the basement, so I decided to go investigate, and find my culprit very quickly. A recycling bin, about a meter tall, in a circular shape. Imagine the big trash bins back in your high school but blue. Step 4, pick up the presently burning bin, hurry with it outside in the parking lot, in front of the eyes of basically every client of the hotel, slam the bin upside down on the ground to basically trap the fire in the bin. Have no fear, dear guests, you are no longer in danger. I have captured the fire. Now I need everyone to stay put until the fire department arrives and does its thing. Nobody goes back in for now. Some people cheer, some applaud, some approach me and ask questions about what just happened. The firefighters came, made sure there was no longer a fire, drained the smoke out of the building, and shut the alarm that had been ringing for an hour at the point all was over. Now, why did the recycling bin catch ablaze? Luckily for us, there was a camera right in front of the bin that witnessed the entire day. We had some workers painting our laundromat room that day, and one of the workers discarded one of his gloves covered in paint oil in the bin. Said oil dried, caught on fire, and the contents of the bin was fueling it. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Times Orphan. It says, aside from the fact that you actually found the reason for the alarm going off, which was an actual fire, this sounds about like most fire alarm situations I've been in. Too much adrenaline and stimulus from all the people around on top of the situation itself. Even if you have a good grasp on the emergency procedures, it's still hard to keep your head on straight. You weren't perfect in this situation, but you certainly did well enough, and far better than some. Too many people go complete deer in headlights in these situations. So, kudos, you did good, and you can take lessons from this so that if it happens again, God forbid, then you can be that much more prepared to deal with it. I can't even tell you how much I want to see the surveillance video of OP grabbing that bin, running it outside, and then tossing it upside down. That would be absolutely awesome. Yeah, OP, you panicked a little bit, but nobody really knows what they're going to do in a situation like that. Panic sets in and you just act on instinct. This story comes to us from Hippie Shroom. I worked at a haunted hotel. In 2019, I worked at the third most haunted hotel in the US in San Antonio, Texas. I was hired by luck. I walked in randomly to this hotel and the front desk girls were fist fighting each other, laughing my butt off. I was interviewed on the spot and got the night audit front desk position. I had no idea the hotel was haunted until my first day of training. I was in the basement where the management had their computer set up and was going through some boring orientation. One of the housekeeping ladies came in and talked to me about how the hotel used to be a hospital and the basement was the morgue, but there was also a cremation area on the roof. At this point I'm thinking, she's messing with me. So I googled the hotel and it's apparently a really well-known haunted hotel. I didn't really think much of it at first, but around the end of my training week, I had caught the corner of my eye, some shadow, peeking at me around corners. I took it as my mind messing with me because of all the stories people had already shared about other experiences working here. Well, eventually, it came down to me finally being able to stay overnight for auditing, and for the first month or two, it was quiet. I'd see the shadow at the corner of my eyes super rare, like once or twice after the initial week, where I would see it more commonly. Eventually, COVID hit and the hotel was empty. I would take my PlayStation and use the computer screen to play since it was so dead. This is when I finally believed the place was haunted. Overnight crew would just be myself at the front desk and one security guy. So much happened, like steps running up behind you, voices from the walkies. One time a group of people came running out of the elevator and the girls were crying like crazy. Said they heard a voice say to help them in the elevator. Had one lady leave in the middle of the night saying her husband got possessed. This one made me laugh a little. Anyways, I always wanted to share this story, and I'm glad I found this subreddit. I never saw a straight up ghost, but I did have a loaf of bread fly at me when I was eating in the break room, which is also in the basement. In the comment section for this one, a user called Orion the Above Average commented about their haunted hotel experience too. It says, "My hotel is haunted too. We had an employee OD in the basement, and since then, everyone has said the place is haunted, most jokingly. Like if something goes wrong, we just blame the ghost for breaking some equipment or device. Though I totally bought it when it was my first solo night audit shift. I was at the front desk by myself on my phone when I heard someone walking at the other end of the lobby. It was that sort of distinct sound of feet on the tiled floor, instead of the carpet that leads to the guest rooms. And I also heard an audible cough, like a little one, as if you're trying to clear your throat. There's a pillar in the middle of the lobby that I would usually lose sight of guests behind when they come down for breakfast. There's usually a space between the tables right there, so guests can slowly walk through that and be completely out of sight for a bit. So I start peering over my desk, trying to see this guest in my lobby, and wondering what they're doing that kept them out of view. So as I edge closer over the desk, one of the plates that they had to cover the holes they made for the recessed ceiling lights they drilled but didn't want to put a light in, just fell right in front of my face. Just smashed onto the marble desk with a bang. Scared the crap out of me. To be fair, that thing was totally going to fall. I have no idea how it was even put up there. I also think the noises I heard was our toaster oven being turned on for breakfast, and it usually makes weird noises because it's so old and worn out. I put this into our online logbook to record the matter. One of the plates for the spots where the lights aren't installed at the front desk fell without warning, placed in back room. Putting in general maintenance requests to reinstall and double check others. Please advise for procedure on how to submit a request for reimbursement for new pants too, because that scared the crap out of me. Okay, going back to the original OP story that ended with bread flying at them in the break room. They kind of expanded on that in response to another person, and it says, "I won't lie, I exaggerate the bread flying, but it was sitting on top of a microwave, no way for it to fall, and it moves vertically off the microwave and falls to the floor." So this is a clear example of how stories get embellished and made to sound like they're more interesting than they really were. I kind of figured something was up with this one when OP didn't elaborate on that last line in the story, and it was just posted as like a little anecdote at the bottom. Oh, the bread just flew across the room in the break room. You know, like that's an everyday occurrence, so something was definitely up with that. If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and add us to your favorites on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.